Hey Internet, just a fair warning, this video is going to be a bit more spicy than usual because a lot of people are getting this horribly wrong and this topic is extremely important. So what I'm referring to is that in the past few weeks, in response to clueless people claiming that no one on the right can define what woke means, based on the top-tier reasoning that this woman had a brain fart when asked to define it, therefore no one on the right can define it. I'm being sarcastic there, of course, that's a fallacy of composition. Anyway, the truth, of course, is that it's actually harder to find people who cannot define woke. There has been a lot of other right-wingers, in fact, and even some centrists have been taking their little crack at defining what woke is. Everyone wants to get their little definition out now. And unfortunately, this is where the issue is. There is actually a pretty big flaw in some of these definitions. Here's a couple of them from two prominent conservatives. See if you can spot what's wrong with them. First is from Dinesh D'Souza. Woke is the idea that what matters most about you is not your individuality, your nationality, or even your humanity, rather it's your skin color, your sexual proclivities, and your imaginary made-up gender identity. At least that's what it is according to D'Souza. And another one from Sargon here. Approaching issues through the lens of intersectionality, which is a little bit closer, but still no cigar. Now, these aren't completely terrible definitions. In fact, in some ways you might even think that they're close enough. But they are missing something absolutely crucial, and I'll go back to my own definition I gave and see if you can spot it. An aggressive push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, usually based on the belief that outcomes which lack these things are indicative of discrimination and/or unfair social treatment. And I'll say it again, this time putting emphasis on the problem. An aggressive push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, usually based on the belief that outcomes which lack these things are indicative of discrimination and/or unfair social treatment. Now, the emphasis I just put on my voice on the word aggressive, this is what is missing. A lot of these definitions are completely missing the element of aggression, coercion, or use of force. And this is a very big problem because it's not really calling out the serious issue behind wokeness. If it was just the equity fallacy alone, it wouldn't be that bad. The issue here is that they are using aggression to push it, because leftists, mainly the far leftists who are pushing this sort of woke-toid cult, they believe in the oppressor versus victims dichotomy. If you are a member of the oppressor class, then you are the one who is at fault for this indicator of discrimination that they are seeing. And therefore, they are allowed to use aggression to force this alleged inequality. At least that's how they think of it in their minds. Leftists and wokeists are willing to use the violence. That is the problem. A lot of it comes down to this contradiction they have when it comes to hierarchy and violence. For instance, far leftists don't believe in hierarchies. They think hierarchies are bad, and that they are therefore allowed to use violence to tear down the hierarchies. This is of course incredibly ridiculous because it contradicts itself. Violence is inherently a hierarchy. Violence only works if you have more power than the other person. So, of course, they actually do believe in hierarchies, they just only believe in the hierarchies that they like. And when they claim to be anti-hierarchical, well, they don't actually believe that. They don't really believe what they're saying when they say that. And what this all boils down to is basically woke-toids hate the successful and blame their imagined oppression on those who are successful and use this fabricated victim complex as justification for aggression. For instance, take a look at this meme right here. This is another thing that's been going around. I will never purchase media containing any of the following. And a few things I want to call out here that really kind of show what I mean is writing contains overtly anti-white male themes, one-way diversity, emasculates male characters while female characters are portrayed as butch, flawless, and unbeatable, hypocritically desexualized female characters while keeping male ones sexualized, and race swaps of any kind. Now, all of these that I called out specifically, I called out for a reason, because all of them kind of show this sort of reverse discrimination that they like to push. This sort of, again, pushing the hard on the oppressor versus victims dichotomy. This is where a lot of their attempts to redefine certain words comes from. Like, for instance, they try to redefine racism as prejudice plus power, because they want to make it so those who they see as members of the oppressor class are exempt from their preaching of equality, which is then further used to justify their aggression. And all of this woke propaganda that you see in the media is ultimately used as justification for aggression towards you. These people do not like you. If they view you as a member of the oppressor class trademark, they hate you. They will discriminate against you. They do not like you. They blame you for all of their imagined problems. They do not care about you. And they will justify aggression towards you. In fact, you could even alternatively define wokeness as a seething and irrational hatred and or bigotry directed at whatever contemporary group they believe to be successful. The only reason I don't do this directly is because it doesn't make a good enough distinction between the useful idiots who support wokeism despite not understanding that the logical conclusion of wokery is in fact envy and hate directed at whatever group is deemed to be the oppressor TM class, based entirely on their collective guilt ideology, and the reverse bigots who are fully aware of this fact and push wokeism anyways as a way to justify their hatred by painting themselves as oppressed. And that's a very important thing that I think a lot of people miss, and this is something I'm kind of uniquely privileged to because I live near Portland, Oregon, as well as I've also lived in the Silicon Valley area, and I've spoken directly with a lot of these people, and there is definitely a noticeable difference in wokedoids. Many of them are really just useful idiots who don't really understand the ideology they're pushing. They don't realize that they're pushing collective guilt. And of course, there are some people who do realize that they're pushing collective guilt and do it anyway because, again, they hate you. They think that the reason they are unsuccessful is your fault because they view you as a member of the oppressor class, and they view themselves as a member of an oppressed class, and that's pretty much the dichotomy that they see the world through. And of course, this is justification for aggression towards you. When these people go to vote in democracy, they will vote for more government gibs towards them, justified and backed up by the aggression of the state towards you. But again, a lot of them are just useful idiots. This is why I use the word usually in my definition, that it's usually based on the belief that outcomes which lack diversity, equity, inclusion are indicative of discrimination and or unfair social treatment. But this is not always the case. Sometimes it's just flat out envy and hate directed at the people they think are more successful than them, and they don't really care about the reasons behind that. But on the flip side, you have these useful idiots who are true believers in the beautiful lie that is equality. They don't necessarily hate you, they're just very, very confused. They're warped by that propaganda I just brought up. They have a very warped view of power dynamics and do not understand that the collective guilt due to inequality that they have been brainwashed into accepting does not hold water when held up to rational scrutiny, and really is just a Marxist talking point that has been repackaged as intersectionality, with the ultimate goal of eroding their freedoms, again, backed up by aggression. And a lot of the useful idiots, if they understood this, would run very far away from the woke ideology that they have been programmed with. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling here, and you can probably tell this is another one of my game rants that I ran with largely unscripted. My point is this: any definition of wokeness really needs to allude or somehow point to the element of coercion or aggression. Wokeness isn't just a stupid ideology. It is, at its logical conclusions, a fundamentally evil and hateful ideology which tries to gaslight you into thinking that it is an anti-hate movement by playing the victim and claiming that they believe in equality. But the thing is, wokeness actually doesn't really believe in equality when you push it to its conclusion, because if they did, then they would care about the equality on an individual level as opposed to this collective guilt crap they pull, where you are only awarded equality based on the overall privilege of your collective guilt level, based on whichever arbitrary collective groups that they have decided to assign you. And then, of course, they only push equality for their preferred groups based on this stack. This is why you rarely, if ever, see them complaining about the fact that men are more likely to be homeless or that white people are more likely to commit suicide, because they don't care about those groups. Because again, it all comes down to the Marx-drone oppressor-victim class dichotomy. They see you as a member of the oppressor class, and they hate you for it, and they are willing to use violence, aggression, and coercion to fix this dichotomy. If we are going to try and settle on a definition of wokeness, we really need to be including one of these words that point to the element of aggression in our definition, or else we are making a very big mistake of failing to point out that wokeism is a fundamentally hateful and violent ideology, and that their claim of equality isn't really true. And that may seem pedantic, but it's actually very important, because if you don't include that coercion element in your definition of wokeness, what you're doing is you're basically just defining woke as equality, and that in many ways makes the woketoids look like the good guys. But they're not. They're liars. They don't actually believe what it is they say, and the ones that do believe what they say are useful idiots who don't understand what it is they are saying. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this matter. I hope other libertarians, right-wingers, and general conservatives, and even centrist liberals who are tired of wokeism really take this to heart when trying to define it. But for now, that's all. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more of my content. Till next time, peace.